Welcome back, Seekers of Insight, to another deep dive. Have you ever encountered a story so vast, so rich, it felt like, I don't know, an entire universe of knowledge packed into just one narrative? You know, a story that doesn't just entertain, but really informs, makes you think, and has shaped whole civilizations? Well, today we're plunging into a legendary work that absolutely fits that description. The Mahabharata. This isn't just some ancient epic. Our source material actually calls it a kind of shortcut to being well-informed about
Yeah,
everything.
that's a great way to put it, yeah. Our deep dive today, it's rooted in section 1, taken from Mahabharata, written by Veda Byasa. So it gives us a really solid foundation for understanding this monumental text. It's about its origins. Our mission today really is to unpack not just what the Mahabharata is, but the incredible story of how it even came to be, its unbelievable scope, and these profound bits of wisdom embedded right in its structure. You're about to discover why this text is seen as a great source of knowledge established throughout the 3 regions of the world. It's huge.
Okay, so to kick us off then, what stands out to you right away about even attempting to dive into something like this? I mean, what kind of undertaking are we talking about for someone listening?
Well, what immediately strikes me is that it's really an invitation to maybe a different way of learning. It's not like reading a textbook, right? It's more immersive. It kind of challenges us to think about how ancient cultures encoded really complex ideas, history, philosophy, everything inside a story that grips you. It's a unique container for human experience, really.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with a scene straight out of ancient India. Our deep dive begins with this really fascinating intro. A wise sage, Yudhisthira, also called Santi, who's like deeply versed in the Puranas, these ancient narratives. He arrives at the Naimisha forest, and there he finds this huge gathering of great rishis, these, revered spiritual figures, and they're in the middle of this incredibly significant 12-year sacrifice. Can you just picture that? A grand event, solemn, full of these leaders. The atmosphere must have been intense. It really sets a powerful stage, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that specific setting, a 12-year sacrifice with those figures, it adds so much weight, so much authority to the wisdom being shared. It's, like you said, a classic setup for transmitting knowledge. The sharing itself becomes almost a sacred act. And the rishis, they're humble, respectful. They asked Santi about his travels. Whence comest thou, O lotus-eyed Santi, and where hast thou spent the time? Tell me in detail. It just highlights how much value they placed on, shared experience and wisdom back then.
And Santi's answer is really key for us. He says he's been journeying, visiting holy places, and this is crucial. He's heard the diverse, sacred, and wonderful stories of the Mahabharata. He specifically says he heard it from Krishna Dwaipayana, who we know better as Vyasa, the composer. So for an epic this massive, how would that oral tradition usually work, and what's the significance of where he heard it?
Yeah, that's a critical point. Because this wasn't just like a casual story told around a campfire. Santi heard this epic recited by Vaisampayana at a huge politically significant event, King Janamejay's snake sacrifice. That detail matters. It's a formal public recitation. You've got kings there, loads of sages, the public. It underlines the gravity, the importance of this narrative. It establishes the Mahabharata not just as a story, but as this central cultural, spiritual cornerstone, meant for public discussion, deep thought, passing down values. It's like an act of collective memory.
Okay, so the rishis, they're eager for knowledge, for guidance. They ask Santi to tell them these sacred stories, and they want the ones about religious duty and of worldly profit. Practical wisdom, spiritual wisdom. So what is this Mahabharata that Santi heard and is about to share?
Well, Santi calls it the Purana, which is basically the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
He says it's a sacred work, first put out there by the great Rishi Dwaipayana, Vyasa. And he explicitly says it's a great source of knowledge established throughout the 3 regions of the world. So yeah, it's not just a bunch of tales. It's this intellectual powerhouse weaving together history, philosophy, ethics, life lessons, everything. It's designed to inform like every possible part of existence, individual behavior, cosmic laws, the lot.
And the description is so rich. Our source mentions its elegant language and says it's so key it helps interpret other sacred texts, the Shastras. It even holds the essence of the 4 Vedas, the bedrock scriptures. It's even said to dispel fear. That suggests it's not just intellectually deep, but emotionally, spiritually powerful too, offering comfort as well as insight.
Right. Which immediately brings up the question, how can one single text do all that? How can it hold so much? And the source uses that beautiful complex analogy, describes the Mahabharata as this huge living tree. The first chapters are the seed, the big divisions are the root system, the sections are the trunk, the books are like the knots holding it together. This analogy really shows its holistic, encyclopedic nature. Every part connects, builds the whole. It even says it's an epitome of the Vedas and the source of livelihood to all distinguished poets, which implies its influence on language, literature, philosophy is just boundless, a blueprint for culture almost.
Okay, so given this incredible scope, this depth, you have to wonder, how did something like this even get made? The story of its actual creation is pretty wild. Vyasa, right? He composed it all in his head first. He wanted to pass it on to his disciples. But for a task that huge, hundreds of thousands of verses he needed a scribe, he couldn't possibly write it all down himself.
Exactly. The source tells us, Vyasa, after all this intense meditation and penance, he'd analyzed the Vedas, conceived this epic, but needed to get it down. And who gets recommended? Not just any scribe. Brahma, the creator god himself, suggests Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity.
Wow.
Yeah, which immediately elevates the whole thing, right? Because this divine collaboration shows the text's immense spiritual importance.
And Ganesha agrees, but he has this pretty intense condition. My pen shall not for a moment cease writing. Talk about pressure. But Vyasa, being brilliant, has this ingenious counter-condition. Ganesha has to understand everything before he writes it down, and this is where it gets really clever, like this divine back and forth.
Absolutely. This dynamic is crucial. So according to the source, Vyasa would deliberately throw in verses that were hard to be understood, really complex knots of meaning. Why? To make us a pause, Ganesha would stop to figure it out, giving Vyasa just enough time to compose the next batch of verses in his head. Isn't it? It's this perfect balance. It signifies the huge effort, both divine and human, needed to bring such deep, complex knowledge into being. Speed and understanding, perfectly balanced, a powerful symbol for any great work, really.
So inside this vast ocean of knowledge, there's this powerful story at its heart, the huge war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Our source gives us a look into the central conflict, which is really the engine for the drama, the ethical questions, the moral tests. It's where all those philosophical ideas meet real, messy human struggles.
Yeah, and the source introduces key figures using these really strong metaphors, gives you instant insight. Yudhisthira, the oldest Pandava, he's described as a vast tree formed of religion and virtue, rooted in dharma, righteous conduct. Arjuna is the trunk, Bhimsen the branches, and figures like Krishna, Brahma, they're the roots supporting it all. It beautifully shows the Pandavas' moral foundation, their connection to ethics and divine backing.
And we learn about how the Pandavas were born, too. Pretty unusual circumstances born to Pandu's wives, Kunti and Madri, but fathered by various gods, which sets up their rivalry with Dhritarashtra's 100 sons, the Kauravas. This divine parentage, their different upbringings, it just naturally lays the groundwork for these complex family dynamics that explode into war, destiny, choice, all tangled up from the start.
Then the narrative jumps to the war itself, and it's told by Sanjay, the charioteer, reporting back to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Sanjay has this divine sight, so he's like a battlefield correspondent giving vivid updates. And what's really striking, almost haunting, is this phrase Dhritarashtra keeps repeating as Sanjay gives bad news after bad news. Oh, Sanjay, I had no hope of success.
Oof, even as it's happening.
Exactly. Sanjay details the fall of basically every major Kaurava warrior, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, even young Abhimanyu. It hammers home the tragedy, the inevitability of their defeat, and the king's own internal despair, despite everything. Which, raises a big question for us listening, thinking about our own lives.
Yeah.
How much hope do you hold on to when the odds seem completely stacked against you? What does that say about destiny versus free will in this huge story? Is it all predetermined, or is it about the choices made?
Right. Beyond the epic battles, the gods, what are the deep philosophical takeaways here for us as learners? What does it all mean for someone today? Just trying to make sense of things, maybe caught between hope and despair themselves. It's not just ancient history, is it?
No, not at all. The source offers this really profound take on existence, especially through Sanjay's advice to Dhritarashtra, who's just reeling from loss. Sanjay tells the king, "Time createth all things, and time destroyeth all creatures. It is time that burneth creatures, and it is time that extinguisheth the fire. All states, the good and the evil in the three worlds, are caused by time." So time becomes this ultimate all-powerful force, beyond our control, shaping everything, good or bad as we see it.
Wow. That idea of time alone is awake when all things are asleep. Indeed, time is incapable of being overcome. That really makes you pause, doesn't it? It suggests this profound cosmic indifference to our little struggles, but at the same time, time is the architect of everything. How does that sit with our modern ideas about control and goals and destiny?
Precisely. It's a powerful counter-narrative to our constant modern drive for control, isn't it? It suggests that understanding this immense, unstoppable force of time could actually free us from the anxiety of clinging to temporary wins or losses. It encourages maybe a deeper resilience, acceptance. If you connect that to the bigger picture, it reminds us that all our achievements, our losses, they're just part of this bigger transient flow. It gives you some humility maybe, a wider perspective on impermanence.
That is a powerful lesson. But the Mahabharata isn't just about the cosmos, right? It gets down to individual responsibility, too, even about knowledge itself.
Exactly. And the source makes this crucial point about knowledge and practice. Tapa, that's like ascetic practice. Self-discipline is innocent. Study is harmless. The ordinance of the Vedas are harmless. The acquisition of wealth by exertion is harmless. Quote, but when they are abused in their practices, it is then that they become sources of evil. That's a really profound ethical guidepost. It's not the tool itself, knowledge, wealth, discipline, that's good or bad.
It's how you use it.
It's how we choose to use it, the application.
So it's not the wisdom or the discipline or even having wealth that's the issue. It's the intention, the application behind it.
Absolutely. And that's a timeless warning, isn't it? Especially today, as we grapple with the ethics of powerful tech, information, our own ambitions, it challenges us constantly. Are we using what we have constructively? Or are we letting it cause harm through misuse or ego? It's a call for constant self-awareness, moral checking.
What an incredible deep dive.
Yeah.
Seriously. We've gone from those forest gatherings of ancient sages all the way to these deep philosophical talks about time, about the ethical use of knowledge and power.
Yeah, this text really an epitome of the Vedas, a great source of knowledge. And it just shows how history, cosmology, philosophy, intense human drama can all be woven together into one epic story, offering guidance not just on big cosmic questions, but on, religious duty and worldly profit, basically, how to live a good and effective life.
And we've seen how the Mahabharata isn't just a story you passively read. It's that complex, multi-layered tree of information. It's meant to be explored, understood deeply. It really does feel like a shortcut to being well-informed about the big questions of being human and the universe.
And connecting it to the bigger picture, it just reminds us of the timeless value of this kind of comprehensive knowledge, especially when it's delivered through stories that hit us on multiple levels, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. It's a reminder that real understanding often means looking past just the facts to the narratives that give those facts meaning.
So for you, our curious listener, here's something provocative to maybe mull over. If these ancient wisdom traditions saw stories, narratives, as the ultimate containers for all kinds of knowledge, science, ethics, history, spirituality, everything, what does that tell us about the power of storytelling in our own search for understanding today?